Hallelujah, Shalom family, love to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Welcome. On this channel I discuss topics to edify and encourage the children of Yisrael to return to the ancient path of Yahuwah. I invite you to comment, like, subscribe, and share this video. Through colonialism and slavery, the majority of the diaspora of Yisrael has been cut off from our Hebraic culture. When it comes to issues of etiquette, bowing in Western society is deemed an outdated custom. In the European mindset, many people may respond to the idea of bowing with, "I bow to no one."
I bow to no man.
Or the religious version, "I only bow to God."
Do you not bow yourselves before your prophet?
We kneel only to God.
In contrast, bowing in Eastern cultures is still considered good etiquette, even in modern times. We can also find this custom in traditional Bantu culture. As we endeavor to set aside the European culture of our oppressors, we must return to the ancient path and revive the culture Yahuwah gave to our people. Guded. Guded. Guded is the Hebrew word which means to bow down, or bend the body, or stoop the head. This is what we commonly find in Asian cultures. When people are greeting each other, they bow the head. Shekha. Shekha is a Hebrew word that means to prostrate, to crouch or fall down, or do obeisance. This is an act that is still performed in very traditional Bantu cultures. Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 20. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. Vayikra, or Leviticus chapter 19. You shall rise up before the hoary head, and honor the face of the old man, and fear your Elohim. I am Yahuwah. Shemot, or Exodus chapter 18. And Jethro, Musha's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife unto Musha into the wilderness, where he encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he said unto Musha, I your father-in-law Jethro am come unto you, and your wife, and her 2 sons with her. And Musha went out to meet his father-in-law, and did obeisance, and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. So we see here how Musha showed honor to his father-in-law by doing obeisance, or shekha. He prostrated himself to Jethro. This is Hebraic culture. 1 Kings chapter 2. Bathsheba therefore went unto Shalomelech, or King Solomon, to speak unto him for Adonyahu. And the king rose up to meet her, and bowed himself unto her, and sat down on his throne, and caused a seat to be set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right hand. We see that Shalomelech honored his mother by bowing down, or in Hebrew, shekha. He prostrated himself before his mother. Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 7. Have you children? Instruct them, and bow down their neck from their youth. Chapter 30. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn, and be disobedient unto you, and so bring sorrow to your heart. The wisdom of Sirach instructs us to teach our children to show honor to us while they are still young, teaching them the Hebraic custom of bowing to their parents. Again, unlike Western culture, where bowing or prostrating oneself to another person is seen as outdated, in many traditional Asian cultures, children are taught to honor their parents by demonstrating this type of behavior of bowing their heads or prostrating themselves to their parents and to their elders. And this is also very common in traditional Bantu culture, to prostrate oneself to your parents or to the elders.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
What are y'all doing?
They bow to show respect.
I ain't never seen nothing like that before. That was neat.
Thank you.
Are these kids literally bowing at my feet? My kids ain't bowing to nobody.
Ephesians chapter 5. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as unto Yahuwah. Verse 33. Nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she reverence her husband. Did you know that it is Hebraic culture for wives to bow to their husbands? Tehillim, or Psalm chapter 45. King's daughters were among your honorable women. Upon your right hand did stand the queen in gold of Ophir. Hearken, O daughter, and consider, and incline your ear. Forget also your own people and your father's house. So shall the king greatly desire your beauty, for he is your Lord, and worship you him. So we see that the wife is being instructed to shechah, or to do obeisance to her husband. This is, again, Hebraic culture. In Western culture, of course, going through the throes of feminism and things of that nature, this would be a very controversial form of showing honor to your husband.
I am Elizabeth Tudor, and I will bow to no man.
We must remove our Western brainwashing and return to the ancient path of Yahuwah, and return to our Hebraic culture. 1 Kings chapter 1. Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the earth, and did reverence to the king, and said, Let my lord King Daud live forever. So we see that Bathsheba bowed, or kudad, and she did obeisance, or shechah, to her husband Daud, or David. In traditional Bantu Israelite culture, we will still find this custom of the wife bowing or kneeling or doing obeisance to her husband. This is a form of her showing reverence and honor to her husband, an act of submission. Kafa Aleph, or 1 Peter chapter 2. Honor all men, love the brotherhood. For Elohim, honor the king. Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 43. And when Yusuf came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare, and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke? Is he yet alive? And they answered, Your servant our father is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. So we find that the brothers of Yusuf went to Egypt and found Yusuf, or Joseph, the commander under Pharaoh, not knowing that Yusuf was their own brother. And we see that they bowed their heads, they kodad and shekha, they did obeisance. They prostrated themselves before Yusuf as the ruler of Egypt. 1 Samuel chapter 24. And they said unto his men, Yahuwah forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, Yahuwah anointed, to stretch forth my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of Yahuwah. So Daud stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Shaul. But Shaul rose up out of the cave, and went on his way. Daud also arose afterward, and went out of the cave, and cried after Shaul, saying, My lord the king. And when Shaul looked behind him, Daud stooped with his face to the earth, and bowed himself. So we see that Daud, or David, showed reverence to King Shaul. He kudad, he bowed his head, and he shekha, he prostrated himself. And we need to mention that this was the time that Shaul was persecuting Daud. He was actually trying to murder Daud. But Daud, being a righteous man, understanding that King Shaul was still the anointed king of Yisrael, he showed Shaul honor. We sometimes have this attitude, for example, when we talk about bowing to parents, that we might say that, well, my father wasn't a good father, or my mother wasn't a good mother. The commandment of Yahuwah still stands. Yahuwah commanded us to honor our father and our mother. It doesn't matter how we think about them or how they treated us. It doesn't mean that we have to obey an unrighteous command, but we still show them honor. 1 Chronicles chapter 29. And Daud said to all the congregation, Now bless Yahuwah your Elohim. And all the congregation blessed Yahuwah Elohim of their fathers, and bowed down their heads, and worshipped Yahuwah and the king. So we see the kodad, the bowing of the head, and shekha, the prostration. So they did this to Yahuwah and the king. We have to understand that the king was the anointed of Yahuwah. So when the people bowed to the king, they were really bowing to Yahuwah, the authority that was given to the king. Showing humility and bowing oneself down to the authorities that Yahuwah has placed in our lives, whether it be parents, elders, or rulers of our people. This is found in very traditional Bantu culture, and of course is found throughout the scripture. This is Hebraic culture. This is our custom. Now we're going to look at a situation where a Hebrew does not bow. Hadassah or Esther, chapter 3. After these things, the king Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgress you the king's commandment? So we see that Mordecai, the Judean, refused to bow and do reverence. And the word there is kara in the Hebrew, which is bow the head or kneel, and reverence is again the Hebrew shekha, meaning to prostrate. Now it came to pass, when they spoke daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yehudi. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. So again we see that the word kara in the Hebrew means to bend, kneel, bow down. So we see that the reason that Mordecai gave for not bowing to Haman was that he was a Yehudi. Of course, Mordecai would have bowed down to the king Ahasuerus, or he would have suffered dire consequences. But he refused to bow down to Haman the Agagite, because Haman had not received authority from Yahuwah to rule over the Yahudim. Daniel chapter 2. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. That word translated worshipped is seged, which comes from the Chaldean language, which is the same meaning as shekha, to prostrate oneself. So here we see that after Daniel was able to solve the mystery of the king's dream, that Nebuchadnezzar prostrated himself to Daniel, and Daniel did not prevent the king from doing so. This foreigner was prostrating himself and showing honor to an Israelite. Acts chapter 10. And as Kepha was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Kepha took him up, saying, Stand up, I myself also am a man. That word worshipped is translated from the Greek proskuneo, which means to fall upon the knees and touch the ground with the forehead as an expression of profound reverence, or shekha in Hebrew. So we see that Kepha prevented Cornelius from doing obeisance to him. Cornelius was a remnant of the house of Yisrael from the northern kingdom, who was returning back to the Torah. And we see that Kepha understood that Cornelius was his brother, a fellow man, a fellow servant of Yahuwah, his equal. So he prevented Cornelius from doing obeisance to him. Yehusha chapter 5. And it came to pass, when Yehusha was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him, with his sword drawn in his hand. And Yehusha went unto him, and said unto him, Are you for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, No, but as captain of the host of Yahuwah am I now come. And Yehusha fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, What says my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of Yahuwah host said unto Yahusha, Loose your shoe from off your foot, for the place whereon you stand is set apart. And Yahusha did so. So we see that this particular messenger who is talking to Yahusha is the captain of Yahuwah's army. And Yahusha, when he met him, he worshipped, he shechah, he did obeisance, he prostrated himself to this messenger. This particular messenger has authority over the Israelites. Revelation chapter 19. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See you do it not. I am your fellow servant, and of your brothers that have the testimony of Yahusha. Worship Elohim, for the testimony of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. So we see Yehohanan, who is being guided by a messenger. When Yehohanan goes to worship or proskuneo, or do obeisance, or prostrate himself to this particular messenger, the messenger prevents him from doing so, saying that he is a fellow servant. So this particular messenger is a fellow servant of the same rank as the Israelites. Unlike what we saw in the instance with Yahusha, who did do obeisance to the messenger who was the captain of the army of Yahuwah. Chapter 22. And I, Yehohanan, saw these things and heard them. And when I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the messenger which showed me these things. Then said he unto me, See you do it not, for I am your fellow servant, and of your brothers the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book. Worship Elohim. So again, this particular messenger whom Yehohanan was being led by was a fellow servant of the Israelites. He was of equal rank. And so he was prevented from doing obeisance to this messenger. Shemot chapter 34. For you shall worship no other El, for Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous all. So we are commanded not to worship other mighty ones, or to bow down or do obeisance or prostrate ourselves before other mighty ones. Daniel chapter 3. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your Elohim, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Verse 28. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his messenger, and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that he might not serve nor worship any all, except their own Elohim. Again, we are not to prostrate ourselves to other mighty ones. But we do see that we do bow down or prostrate ourselves or show honor to people that Yahuwah has set in authority over us in our lives, whether it be our parents or rulers of our people. Yeshayahu chapter 49. Thus says Adonai Yahuwah, Behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring your sons in their arms, and your daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be your nursing fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers. They shall bow down to you with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of your feet. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. So we see that Yahuwah spoke through his prophet Yeshayahu, that when he restores the kingdom of Yisrael, that the foreign nations will bow down to his people, Shekha, they will prostrate themselves. So this is not a antiquated custom. This is not a custom that has died in the past, but this is the eternal culture of Yisrael. This is how our ancestors conducted themselves during the times of the scriptures, and this is also what will be restored as our culture when Yahuwah establishes his kingdom on earth. So as we endeavor to prepare ourselves for his kingdom, we want to make sure that we are rehearsing the customs and culture that Yahuwah gave to the nation of Yisrael. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Bind up the testimony, seal the Torah among my disciples. Shalom, family. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Like, comment, and share.